Welcome to CCNA Security 210.260 lab setup, and this video will actually is an update to the previous video, and this video will include running the more stable way of running your own CCNA security lab instead of GNS3. So going to the contents, we have GNS3 installation, and then we walk you through the VirtualBox and VMware, and then of course we walk through the installation of the images inside of GNS3. Of course, we will get our lab running in our own ASAv inside of GNS3, and of course we have additional resources to help you out in setting up the GNS3. And of course you have the alternatives if you do not wish to use GNS3, or you might not have a very powerful PC to virtualize the as much images as you want. Stay tuned for the alternative section. And of course, we'll walk you through some of the advanced setup you can actually do in GNS3 for our CCNA security lab. Of course, a little bit of housekeeping that I'll actually be using the Mac throughout. Of course, if you are using Windows or Linux, these steps will be mostly the same. And of course, if there's any steps that is different, I'll actually point out in the video. And you should at least have 8 gigs of RAM. If you have 4 gigs, you might have a little bit of trouble with virtualizing. You won't be able to virtualize as much images as you want. So I would highly suggest that you at least keep it at least 8 gigs of RAM. Of course, you have 16 gigs or 32 gigs of RAM, that will be the best you can have. I mean, you can just knock it out with all you have with. So let's go right to our resources link to download our lab files. So you can head over to this URL, and this file actually compiled it into a website, so you can actually find it one stop. So you actually have a lot of images you can actually download, and this 210.260 lab file is actually the same lab file as the previous one. Of course, I have already downloaded all the images, so I won't waste your time going through downloading all this. So of course you can go ahead and download all of this. So let's go back. Next, and we will walk you through the downloading of our GNS3, and then so let's head over. So you actually go to gns3.com, and then you arrive at this web page, and you can choose to download GNS3. As of this recording, I'll be using the version 2.0.3, and of course if you're using any older version, or I don't know, 1 year from now they're using a later version, most likely the steps will still be the same and it will still be working. And of course, another thing you take note is you have to download VM for GNS3, and this GNS3 VM will actually be used to virtualize our ASAv, and this is the more stable way and recommended way by GNS3 to virtualize the ASAv. So you can actually use VirtualBox or VMware Workstation. Of course, the GNS3 recommends you to use VMware Workstation because the VirtualBox might not get the optimal performance or might not be as stable as VMware Workstation. So go ahead and download the GNS3, and then you can just run then we'll run out the setup file later. Oops, let's go back to our slides. Of course, for the virtualization products for Windows and Linux, you can check out VMware Workstation or VirtualBox. If you do, just take note that VMware Workstation or VMware Fusion is actually a paid product. So, if you do not wish to pay for the product, you can actually use VirtualBox if you wish. And I've not tried with VirtualBox, but I most likely it will just work fine. But of course, in this video, I'll actually use VMware Fusion, which is the Mac version of VMware Workstation. So you should at least have these few images will be working inside our first lab, and then let's go to our setup. So you can if you haven't downloaded the GNS3 image, you can download, and then we'll download the VM for our GNS3. So I have already go ahead and actually download the GNS3 and set it up, so that I actually won't waste the time. And setting up GNS3 is actually not that difficult. and you can actually just run the exe file or the dmg file and just press next next next, and then you will have your GNS3 running. So you just you just create a new one, just call it first lab. There we go. Now if you have, so once you have downloaded GNS3 VM, you have to import it. Now I've gone ahead and actually import the GNS3 VM already. So if you the importing is very simple. You just need to go file, import. It's mostly the same steps for the VMware workstation, and then you choose the OVF file that is inside of the downloads GNS3 VM, and then you just import the GNS3 VM, continue, and press next next next. Then you have your GNS3 running. So the steps that next after you have linked to the VMware workstation is you have to go to GNS3 preferences, and then go ahead in GNS3 VM, enable the GNS3 VM, and then choose your virtualization engine. Of course, if you are using VirtualBox, you choose VirtualBox, and then I'm using VMware Fusion. Then you actually select your VM, then we will use GN3 VM and give it 4 gigs of RAM, and then actions when closing, I will just choose when stop, and once you press OK, then then you'll be linked here, so you can actually view the status here. So we actually wait for our GN3 to run. Yeah. So it's going to take quite a bit of while to have it running. So in the meantime, while we are waiting, so you actually most likely need to have a client. So you can actually host a client inside of VMware or using VirtualBox, which is very fine. So if you want to use if you want to actually host Windows, you can actually go to Microsoft Tech Val, and then here you can actually find the evaluation products they can actually use, which is good enough for a thing. So you can actually download the Windows 10 Enterprise, which you actually use inside our lab as a client machine to use ESDM for the ASA. So you can actually go ahead and actually download the Windows 10 Enterprise, and then go ahead and set it up inside of the VMware or VirtualBox if you are using. And of course the steps to import is actually fairly the same, and they've actually gone ahead and done it already, so you actually don't waste time actually doing it. So yep, we have our GNS3 VM running. So let's go back to the so let's see about the appliance. So you go back to our GNS3 website, and then we actually go to marketplace, and here we actually download the appliance, which is technically which is like a template file for the Cisco IOS images. So you can see that we have a couple of templates they can actually run inside of GNS3. So we actually download the templates that we need, which is 7200 template. Download the template. And then the 3725 template. And then the ASAv template. And then we have the IOSV template. Of course, there are other images here, templates here. You can actually find it out yourself how to do it. So once you have our template images downloaded, so to host our iOS routers, you can actually use this Dime IPS, which actually is actually specifically to run iOS routers. So run it on our local machine, and then click yes, and then Yes, so bump this up to 256 of RAM. Then we choose our slots, so we have our 4 serial interfaces, and then we can choose like weak 2T. So this idle PC finder is to prevent you from using 100% of your processing power. So it's actually a very recommended step to actually do this. So we'll let GNS3 to compute its idle PC. So it's going to take quite a while. Yep, so now we just find the specific idle PC value, and then we just click finished. Oops, looks like it crashed out. No. Okay. Okay, so we should have our. Okay, so our GH3 just crashed just now, so we actually redo the steps for the and the thing. So I should choose 3725. Next, and then bump this up to 256 of RAM. Next, and give it two serial interfaces. Then find the idle PC value, and then it's gonna take a while. Okay, here's found idle PC value. Let's get finished. Okay, then you can essentially do the same step for the 72000 series, and you just put it out, then connect each other with a serial interface. Waiting, launched it. So we can actually console this. We use the item. So if you are using Windows, you actually use PuTTY, or you can use Teratom depending on your preference. So you can just wait for it to kind of boot up. So use the item. Okay. So it's going to take quite a while to boot up. Okay. Yep, looks like we have our thing running. There you go. Awesome. So we just configure a quick interface so we can get them up and running. 255, 252. No shut them. Exit. Configure. No shut them, and this should be up. Yep. Do ping .2. There we go. We have our full connectivity. Of course, you can actually set up OSPF, and it should work, fine. Put that 0 OSPF1 network 1.2 0. There we go. We have our neighbor. There we go. Awesome. So yeah, find that our CCNA file is actually working inside GNS3. So let's get our ASA to actually get working inside GNS3. So to do this, it's actually the same. So we actually file, import ASAv, open, next, run this in GNS3 VM. Okay, next, and it's gonna find our file, and then you actually press next and press yes, and then you select our settings, next, finish, and then installed. Then we can go over, and this is our Cisco ASA. So let's put it out. So it's going to take a while to upload the image. There we go. It's upload finished. Then we have our Windows client. Then we'll connect with the interface. Then we'll power them up. Start. And power our Windows machine. Okay. Let's console in. Oopsie. So by default it's actually use VNC to connect. So if you want to change, if you do not wish to use VNC to connect to the clients, you can actually change it. Let's go to our virtual VMs, GNS3 VM. I think we can change it inside of here. Configure template. Yep. So we change to telnet, so we can actually use our console. So console. Okay. Console. Console in. Looks like it's not. Telnet. Okay. Then console in. Yep, there we go. Connection refused. So occasionally we get this connection refused. So the steps to actually do this, you actually. Okay, so we got our GNS3 back and running again. So just it crashed, and then it reboot ourselves so that we can actually connect back to our ASAv. So we'll go ahead and start our ASAv. let's see if we can get this start. And because you start our Windows 10 client, and we'll make sure that it's telnet in. Okay, console. Now just when it's gonna but just when it's putting up, just a keynote of if you're actually using VMware, you actually have to go to VMware advanced local settings and actually configure the unused VMnet interfaces for the GNS3 to use. So if you actually have attached any existing network adapters to the Windows 10 client or whatever client you're using, the GNS3 will actually complain to you that you need to detach it, or else it can't connect to it. So this is an important step that you need to do, and then configure the range and then press configure. Then this will be the number of interfaces that allows GNS3 to use. So let's go back to our console. So it's actually booting up. Now just a key to take note that this has a free license, or technically like a trial license. So the bandwidth will be capped at 10 megabits per second. So it's not that fast, but it's good enough for lab work. So just a key thing to take note of. So it's still gonna boot up. All right, we have booted up. So just now, so download the script. There we go. Then we will actually uh, just walk through, just copy paste this. Oops. There we go. Just click Control C. And then Control V inside. There we go. You create the pool. Enable DHCP, then we will enable our HTTP service for our ASDM. There we go. So now if we go back to our Windows 10 client, okay, so now we managed to get a IP address from the client. So yep, the ASA sees it. So now we can actually launch our browser to connect to our ASA. So now if you remember the previous video, if you come from the previous video, you have to remember that we have to connect the TFTP into the ASDM image into the ASA. So in this case for ASAv, you do not need to TFTP the ASDM image into the ASAv. The ASAv already has a ASDM image inside, so you can actually just connect directly to it. So let's make it this a little bit bigger. So advance, proceed. So here we can actually launch our Cisco ASDM. So I've already have the launcher. Now if we actually get the username and password prompt, the username and password is actually blank, so you can actually just press next or submit or whatever it is. So it's taking quite a while. So in this case, we do not need to fill out anything. So we just press OK. So now we're connected to the ASA. So now it's gonna retrieve any updates from the ASA and then pull down some of the dependencies for the ASDM to be launched from Windows. So let's give it a while for the initial setup. Yep, so there we go. We have our ASA to be launched here. So it's going to take quite a while. So we'll just I'll fast forward the video when we finish setting up the ASDM. Okay, so we actually have our ASDM up and running. So we have our fully featured the ASDM that you can actually run. Right, so that's pretty enough. Then we'll stop the instance. There we go back to our slides. Okay, so there's additional resources. So if there's a free course by INE, if you wish to know more about GNS3 or if you are very new to GNS3, this is like a free course to get started with GNS3 with very uh, advanced stuff like snapshots and go through some of the labs and all. So if you don't have any experience with GNS3, I would highly recommend you get started with this course to know more about GNS3. So alternatives. There's Cisco Viral. This is essentially the Cisco product of something like GNS3, but it's like a official product from Cisco to run emulated Cisco products. So So if you go to Cisco Viral, so this is the product page you can run, and the in the slide I mentioned the packet.net. So essentially you can run viral in packet.net. So you can run the machines here, so you can run very powerful machines for Cisco in Cisco Viral. And you can actually go look it up on more on the website of Cisco Viral. It's actually a very interesting product. I've actually tried it myself on the backend on it, and it's pretty good. And if you do not have a powerful machine, you can actually run a lot of advanced topologies if you wish. So the other alternative is actually INE rack rentals, and there's a couple of rack rentals that is pretty good. And for right now, there's only CCIE security, but you can essentially just use part of the rack that is given to you. So he has very very featured topology with the IIC set up for you, ASAs. So if you want to get hands-on with ACS and IIC, or this you can actually get started with this as well. So let's go back to site. Alright, advanced labs. You can actually run Cisco ICE in GNS3 and Cisco ACS and more the advanced stuff like WSAv and the FTDV inside of GNS3. So I've not tried it myself in GNS3. Probably there will be like a next future video on how to set up like Cisco ICE in GNS3 and Cisco ACS in GNS3. So right, that's the end. And if you have any questions, you can actually go look it up on GN3 forums. Probably some of the issue that you'll be facing it has already been answered in GN3 forums. If not, you can put it down in the comments below, and then I will try to check. I'll try to help it out with the errors they have, or try to link you with other resources you have. Alright, so thanks for watching, and happy studying.